The Extraordinary Phenomenon Investigations Council presents Epic Voyages. Come join us as we enter and experience the great mysteries of the world with tonight's host,
Kevin Cook.
Good evening. This is Kevin Cook, your host tonight for Epic Voyagers. Appreciate Ken Cherry's letting me guest host tonight. We've got a really great guest, Giovanni Lordi. And before we bring Giovanni on, I'd like to cover a few news pieces like we usually do. And also for those that do listen to my show on Tuesdays at the same time, Father Lionel Fanthorpe is not going to be on as we had tried to produce the show from Britain. We had some technical problems. I'm going to have an interview we had with Colonel John Alexander on UFOs and disclosure, which should be very interesting for you. But we'll keep taking away and get Father Fanthorpe on. But anyhow, we've got a few real juicy stories here before we get into the interview. Tag Romney, who is one of Mitt Romney's 5 sons, is involved with a company that produces electronic voting machines. And, somebody could say, ho-hum, big deal. But that's about as likely as being a coincidence as George Bush's brother, Morris Bush, that was involved in being chief of security for the World Trade Center. I mean, if you believe that, you're pretty naive, and there's some swampland in Arizona we could sell you, and you'd probably buy it. But anyhow, this is an item that we're going to follow on the show, on my show, and deal with. It just seems too unlikely to be a coincidence. Now, spiritdaily.com is a very good website. I suggest you go check it out. You don't have to be a Catholic to enjoy it. It has a lot of stories that also deal with Orthodox Christian issues and general Christian issues. And they had a story on this week on spiritdaily.com. They have an icon in Honolulu, Hawaii, that is exuding myrrh, basically, you remember frankincense and myrrh from the Bible and so forth, and it's exuding this substance. This has been checked out. It's become quite an international incident. They've got thousands of people streaming into Honolulu to check this out, and this and another one in Toronto are doing that, and that's in the Eastern Orthodox Church, specifically the Russian Orthodox Church. So you might check that out because that's not your average everyday occurrence, and these things do exist. They really do. I wrote a book, Marian Apparitions Are Real, and we had a chapter on Our Lady of Akita that happened in Japan, and it was verified scientifically that the statue was weeping, yes, real tears, and scientifically was checked out, not just supposition. Anyhow, you might find that interesting. And okay, here's another one on a different tack. The state of Texas in the United States threatens to arrest international monitors of the election. That is, Texas Attorney General Greg Abbott has said he will arrest these UN monitors of the election who were there at the request of the ACLU to the issues voter ID laws and excluding, say, perhaps minority voters that might be more inclined to vote for President Obama. And, this is just about like Texas, and I mean, realistically, even if they felt it was an intrusion, I mean, who the hell are these people, really, anyway? I mean, they're just some little local petty officials. The governor of the state made the biggest ass of himself that I think anybody has in looking at politics in the last 50 years. So anyway, this is happening here, and that gives you a feel for the state I'm residing in. And now, I know the big issue right now, of course, and one that's obviously involving everybody's attention, is the storm in the Northeast. And, of course, I'm born and raised in the Northeast, and it's really quite an issue. On West 57th Street in New York, there's a crane that is dislodged and it's dangling by a thread, right on over the street. And if it falls, it's significant enough size that it could break through sidewalks into steam deals. It could really be quite an issue. But a greater issue than that is the flooding that could occur in New York City and a lot of the coastal areas. Atlantic City's closed down, which takes a lot to close Atlantic City down, the casinos, and it's been evacuated. And, a lot of parts, this could really be quite an issue, because even if the storm winds have died down, it's the flooding that's the issue, not the, not really the storm winds, because the water's already going to be at high tide owing to the full moon, which accentuates the problem with the storm surge. So you could have waves as high, as I understood it tonight, 12 foot above sea level, and a lot of New York is 4 to 6 foot under sea level. So the problem, more, of course, not just it comes to strictly mere flooding, but it's what happens if, it's what happens if the water gets in the subway and causes all kinds of technical problems there, and also in the power production, and also, relatedly, in about 10% of the gas in the country is produced, and oil is produced in New Jersey for the refineries. So, our hearts and prayers go out to these people, and hopefully it'll not be as bad as it looks. Now, the next two shows on my show, now, once again, tomorrow night is going to be a rebroadcast of Colonel John Alexander. It was a very successful show. I hope you enjoy it. And we talked about how the government really has already disclosed the fact of ET existence. And, you hear a bunch of sass from certain quarters about how we need to have disclosure. Well, Colonel Alexander pretty well tells you in no uncertain terms we've already had disclosure. And all this baloney about having formal disclosures, just that. So anyhow, you'll find that this Alexander's quite a fellow. He's a Green Beret and colonel involved in all kinds of things with the CIA and other issues, and very involved with UFOs and non-lethal weapons. And this is a good guy, high-quality guest. And the March 6th, we're going to have Mark Murphy. He's going to have a show on chemtrails. And then, November 6th, we're going to have March. I was thinking March because that's when the broadcast was of Colonel Alexander rebroadcast. But November 6th, we're going to have, of course, Mark Murphy with the chemtrails. And then November 13th, we're going to have Tim Francis, who's going to give us a presentation on miracles, kind of like what I just alluded to in the beginning of the news pieces, was this stuff's for real, folks. This isn't just something the church throws together to scare up a few recipients. Let's be reasonable, people. The Catholic Church has 1.3 billion members. It's not like they're hurting for membership. And they really are very meticulous in their investigation of these things. Anyhow, it's something you really do need to hear, and you don't hear on any other secular shows. Now, all that being said, I'd like to invite Giovanni Lordi to be with me now from Australia. How you doing, Giovanni?
Yeah, very, very, very well. And hello to all the audience out there. I'm well, Kevin, and yourself?
Well, as I discussed before the show with you, Australia's always interested me, and I'll have to get down there one of these times. It's a very pretty country from what I've seen, and my father sure loved it to death when he was able to get there.
It is a beautiful country. As I said before, our weather is very similar to the Florida weather that's here in Queensland, but if you go down south a little bit, it kind of has 4 seasons in the one day, so it's a good mixture.
Oh, yeah, sure, I could see that. And, it's the outback is always intrigued me, and, of course, many people. And the Aborigines down there have all kinds of different, legends and traditions, and just an interesting place. Desert areas always seem to be fascinating, and our American Southwest is one, and I've heard little tidbits about Aborigines, and, maybe they've seen some UFOs and all kinds of goings-on out there.
Look, you never know, because, in our outback, it's like everything. You adapt to your environment. And, they've adapted to their environment, and a lot of the senses they use, we don't use in everyday life, our intuitions, our instincts, because they're always hunting. We're too busy thinking, where's our next paycheck going to come from? so I can buy my new car.
Yeah.
So the thinking's a lot different there, and they, they got the pointing the bone and some other little traditions they do in their dances, but I'm sure in the Outback Australia there would be some unusual sightings, that's for sure.
Well, they remind me very much of the American Indians and their experience, the same kind of situation as far as adaptation. Now, Giovanni, go ahead and give us your website, and I think you wrote that book, ToolBox for Life. That sounded like a real interesting book.
Yeah, the website is www.giovannilordi.com, and Giovanni spelled Giovanni Lordi.com. A lot of people say Giovanni Lordi, but GiovanniLordi.com. And the book is the Toolbox for Life. It inspired me to write something like. Throughout my life, I've seen a lot of things, gone through a lot of, events in my life, and I thought, these events, I'd like to open people's minds up and actually give them answers to certain things they want to answer. So, I spent a good year waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning and then writing for 4 hours, going to work, after work, writing for another 4 or 5 hours. So I did this for about 12 months straight, and I've got all the information I wanted to get there to give people answers like techniques. How do you overcome? How do you actually work? And I think like the more we understand how we work, the better we understand others. So there'll be a lot more harmony once people know what they who they're involved with is they are different. We're all different. If we were all the same, we'd be bored. Like,
that's
we need chaos, we need difference, we need people debating opinions and seeing things, and that opens our minds. Because if we don't, and everyone agrees on it, it'll be like that movie, Truman with Jim Carrey. Remember that? Just waking up in the morning, saying hello to your neighbours, going to work, come back, and nothing will be any different. It'll be boring. So, and a lot of times, a lot of these misbehaviors come out of because of boredom. It's like, I need some excitement in my life. So, either get drunk and go out partying hard, or you cause some mischief so the attention's on you, but at least there's some sort of excitement. We're funny creatures, but we're actually quite intelligent once we know how to direct it all. So the book has got a lot of insights. Yeah.
Well, that sounds very helpful. And the only exposure I've had to hypnosis as such was, of course, I was cynical, but I was open, though. But what it was is this is some 12 years ago, I decided I wanted to quit smoking.
Yep.
And I was a heavy smoker, and I went to this gal, and she put me in a sort of like a dentist chair in her study, and I'm waiting to conk out like a light, and all I keep hearing is, I'm keeping quiet. And I'm hearing all this, not like, cigarettes are this, that bad, this, that, and the other, and you'll, the taste them would be like, licking a garb, whatever, a long line of drivel. And I was waiting for, when do I like fall off, sleep or something? And I got a little bit cynical, but I did. This is both a good and a bad end of this. but what it was I said, well, gee, I never did get under the hypnotic trance state, if you will. Yeah. And I felt kind of cheated over that, but I was kind of cynical about it, but you know what, Giovanni? I never did smoke after that.
Yeah.
And I don't... In other words, maybe I was overly critical of the whole circumstance.
No. The reason us as hypnotherapists use the word sleep is because that's something that people can associate to. And it's smaller. The word is so... Because when we use the word sleep, it's actually like we need a split second of time to get into the mind. And... So we can't sit there going, now I want you to relax and go into a deep state. Too many words. So that one word is when you shock someone or use a technique is to actually put them into a trance. And a trance is not a sleep state. It's actually you're more aware because you can actually hear a pin drop. But your conscious mind is not so busy, asking questions, what's going on. And a lot of the times, even when we're doing hypnosis, we'll missay words. Because that's the conscious mind who'll go, he said it wrong. He must be an idiot. but it distracts the conscious mind so we can talk to the subconscious. And like that saying, you know, where there's a way, there's a will. So you often that ask about it, or back to front. But under hypnosis, when I say it that way, the conscious mind will go, he said it wrong. And then as soon as it's thinking that, then I can slip in and say, now that you have the will, you must find a way. So,
well, you know, I guess I really think, I was being cynical at the time, but I really think that she did have me in enough, like you say, hypnotic state, that it actually did. I can't say I've never fallen off the wagon. I do still puff on one every now and then, but as far as being a real smoker, no.
No, and look, the reality is a lot of the stuff is attached to our belief systems. So, like, if you're a smoker and you believe that, you know, it's okay socially, it's not going to affect you. You know, having one now and again is not going to affect you. But if you think, hey, every time I'm having a smoke, I'm going to create cancer in my body, I'm going to fall apart, then you're creating a fear, and the fear puts stress on the body.
Right.
You know, so...
Well, it could, and I'm sure it's bad for you and all that, but still, essentially, it was the kickoff to me really dropping a pretty significant habit. And so my initial cynicism was not well taken. But then I guess so many of us have been influenced by films about, you know, they'll have the old-fashioned stopwatch, pocket watch in front of a guy's face, or, you know, one of those piano, metronomes or whatever, and they'll just fall off and be really like all the way out, like a stage hypnotist or something.
Yeah, well, they never actually go out. Like, you're always a certain amount awake, but if you want the conscious mind to go out like asleep, there's a borderline how deep you take someone. So if you take him into the delta realms, which is like a coma realm, I suppose, you know, that part of the sleep where you can't remember anything and someone can pick you up and throw you around the room and you can't remember it, that's when the conscious mind is completely asleep. And the subconscious at that level is in a euphoric state. It's completely neutral because it doesn't have to think about stress, and that's the state where the body heals itself. And it also is a state where the subconscious starts to look for the answers for your solution. Thus, that's the state we have out-of-body experiences in without the conscious
I had one
mind.
of those too. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But so hypnosis is really what? Just I guess as a definition, it'd be just the suspension of, moment by moment thought.
It's a detached parallel awareness.
Okay.
So you're detached, but you're not actually there. It's like, you know, sometimes you drive a car and you get there and you go, geez, how do I get there?
You're not even paying attention, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's because the conscious mind, the subconscious took over because it knows how to drive. So it took you on autopilot. And what directed the subconscious was the conscious mind saying, hey, this is where we're going. See, once the subconscious has a purpose, a direction, and a target to go to, and it's trusted by the conscious mind that it's going to do that, the conscious mind will just go into a daydream state, which is a form of hypnosis, light hypnosis. So it allows the subconscious to drive the car. And that's the reason we forget a lot of the things throughout that drive. It's like time. Yeah. And we're, you know, like we're always in some sort of hypnosis throughout our day. You know, like even when we're brushing our teeth, when we're looking in the mirror, we're actually judging ourselves. And so because we're not doing it by thought, by consciously going, I need to brush my teeth this way, then I've got to do it this way, because there's no conscious interaction. It's all subconscious, which is a mild state of hypnosis. And at that state, when you're looking yourself in the mirror, that's why we can pick all our faults and no one else can. It's like Elle Macpherson, you know, supermodel, beautiful young lady, and what she used to judge were her shoulders are too square. No one else saw it until she brought it to our attention.
Yeah. Huh.
And
interesting.
And so that's what we do naturally. So they're the states when you're not thinking, is when you want to change a pattern or change something in your life, you begin to think.
Well, you've written, or rather recorded a lot of audio tapes that would really help somebody in different aspects of their life, right?
Yeah, 100%, definitely. definitely. I tell you what I have noticed, in the last 6 months or so, it's like, you got the standard, people want to break addictions or smoking and weight loss or anxiety or stress, but there seems to be a massive shift at the moment. It's like people want stuff to open their minds up, so, it's even like aliens. Yes, keep your mind open because there is a possibility. We can't be the only ones on this earth. Like opening their minds up to the superconscious so they can learn quicker, but things are moving quicker. So I created some CDs and MP3s, one called Super Consciousness, based on that movie Limitless. When the guy takes this magic pill and he can learn quicker and all the processes work and he just gets out and goes. And that's just been a phenomenal seller. And I just released one called Unlocking the Code of Abundance. And that's about, aligning up the conscious mind with the subconscious, your emotion mind, your physical mind, all lining up as one. So, because we know how to create stuff. We either create drama or we create things we want. Right. So we already have that code of creation because we are the creators of everything that happens. So it's knowing how to lock into that and then create it and direct it to a better direction for you. So
I really believe that. I really do, because attitude and your mental processes are such a major part of your success. You can take the best athlete going, and if you keep exposing him to negative vibes and stuff, doubting his own abilities, he'll perform like a dud. And I know, very much so, very much that way in athletics and life itself,
And it's true. Like I did a lot of martial artists,
Oh,
and you wouldn't believe what their biggest fear is. The
What's
biggest
that?
fear of most of them is getting hit.
Oh, really? Well, I was a martial artist. I guess I wasn't afraid of that too much, but
no, like these are the guys in the big leagues.
Yeah.
And I thought, that makes sense. That's why they're so quick. That's why they're so fast, because they're always dodging getting hit.
Right.
So indirectly, that negativity, what people would call it, is actually a driving force for them because it opens up their senses. So it makes them more aware, and it keeps them 2 steps in front.
Right. I guess
so it's quite and even footballers, they're scared of the crowd, what they're thinking of them.
Really?
Yeah.
I would think they'd tune the crowd out and wouldn't care what they thought.
No, like it's all based on their expectations. Like they know when they're walking on the field, they're not walking out just for them. They're walking out for everyone, and everyone's going to be putting them down if they do a mistake. So a lot of them actually have...
Well, that's surprising. I had no idea.
Yeah, so a lot of the difference between, like someone that has that fear normally they'll do silly little mistakes and put themselves down. But the art is by encouraging yourself, and then you switch out the state. Because when you're playing football, you have to go into that child mode. Like when you're in the moment and you're playing, nothing else matters because you're there for a job. And a lot of them, when it does matter, is actually when they're having personal problems beforehand, and then they bring it onto the field, and then the crowd affects them even more. So it's like a domino effect.
Okay. Well, we're just about at our first break, and I think we have to take one little break here for a minute, for about 4 or 5 minutes. Go ahead and give your website once again, Giovanni, and then we'll come right back.
www.giovannilordi.com. That's giovannilordi.com. And there's a free download there. It's only a small one on the front page for about 80 minutes for stress relief, if anyone wants a free download.
Well, I could always use some stress relief. That sounds good. We'll be back in about 4 or 5 minutes, guys.
All right, beautiful.
We're having a little bit of Skype problems here, but we'll get Giovanni back on, and we'll be set up